What is going on, everyone? Grunge Gaming back here. In today's video, I'm going to be testing out viral bot lobby glitch methods just to see if they work or not. Before making this video, I scoured the internet to find the wackiest methods I could, and then I went into Apex games and tested those methods. And despite how crazy some of these methods sound, I'm sure a lot of you will definitely be shocked by what I found. Now, with all of that being said, let's get right into today's video. Now, starting off with the first method I found, allegedly in Apex Legends, if you spend an entire game or at least half a game going around and just firing your weapons in random spots, so basically shooting anything but players so the game thinks your accuracy level is awful. So now that the game doesn't think you're that good at aiming, you'll now end up being put in matches with players who are also not too good at aiming. Now, I would like to think that the Apex Legends matchmaking system isn't that advanced, but who knows, maybe it is. So to try this, I headed into a game, and in that game, I just went around picking up random weapons and then just randomly shooting in different directions. The funniest part when I was doing this, no one pushed me as I was just firing off random shots. I was pretty lucky I was on World's Edge and everyone was in Fragment, because if I wasn't, this would have been near impossible on any other map. But once I had done all of that and then died to the ring, I just returned to the lobby and then started up a match like normal. And now I just wanted to see what kind of match I would load into and what kind of players would be in it. Once I loaded into the match, I followed down 2 players just to see what they were like. I kind of just wanted to study them and see if they were good players or not. It turned out even though I tried to get the surprise attack on them, I still ended up failing very miserably, and these players were definitely not bad. From here, I went into another match just to try it again. At first, it looked super promising. I followed a player, they walked for a little bit, and then they just disconnected from the game. But then I found some other players, and these guys were anything but bots. So at the end of the day, I can confirm that this method doesn't work, but there are still 2 more methods to try. Surprisingly, these next methods were the most outlandish ones, but they ended up somewhat working. Moving right into method 2, this is definitely the most annoying method. What you have to do for this method is go to your cosmetics section, and then what you need to do is remove all of the skins off of your guns and legends, and you just have to go through that section, putting the default skins back on those items, and then you have to go through and take off emotes and weapon charms as well. And just to make sure I was testing it right, I went into the art and soundtrack and then also defaulted those. Now, after going through that incredibly painful process, it was time to play a match and see what ended up happening. Just like usual, I queued into a match of no-fill duos, and then once I was in the game, I went ahead and followed down a duo. This time the duo split up, and then I landed on one of them. Now, already after looking at the actions of the first player, it was definitely a lower skilled player. They heard me coming, so they ended up turning their back on me and then ran out. They didn't even attempt to strafe as I was shooting at them. Then the teammate also came around. They seemed to have a little skill, but I ended up winning the engagement because the second player just blindly ran around a corner, and I was able to take advantage of that. Now, when I encountered the next group of people, they were a little tougher, a little more aggressive, but I ended up sticking one of them with an arc star, and then he ended up running over to his teammate and also damaging them as well. I ended up pulling through in this engagement when the Mirage went for the res, but the Mirage ended up doing it right in front of me, so I knew where they were resing. After that engagement, I briefly went upstairs to the little command center. There was an extremely aggressive duo up there, so I ended up backing off and then rotating somewhere else. And then going to my last engagement in this match, I was going up against an Octane, and I was doing pretty well, but I ended up leaving too much space in between me and him. So by the time I caught up to him, he had enough time to use a bat, and then it was down to an extremely close range fight, which just so happens to be something I'm extremely bad at, and I ended up losing during that engagement. But for some reason, after going through my account and applying the default skin to everything, the matches for some reason just got easier. So let me know down in the comments if you think this worked. Now, moving on to the final method. Now, straight off the bat, this has to be the weirdest thing I've ever heard. What you need to do for this method is start a match and then go to the store and then spam buy on something until you have queued into the match. Even though I predict that this won't work, I guess you can't knock it till you try it, and this method really isn't that difficult to do. So just like usual, I started queuing into a match. I went into the store and I went into the heirloom section, and then I started spamming buy on Valk's heirloom. Now this time when I queued into a match and was on the dropship, I saw a solo player leave the dropship, so I decided to follow them down. They were a diamond player, but I wanted to see what this lobby was made of, and what you are about to see is probably the funniest clip I've ever gotten to date. So after getting a sneak attack on that player, I ended up fighting through the armory which they had activated. But no joke, after watching that clip over and over, I think that player might have just uninstalled after that happened to them. But after getting out of the armory, I encountered a very aggressive duo and I barely managed to get away from them. Then once I made it into the middle of the map where it opened up a little more, there were a couple different teams fighting each other. I ended up getting the third party on one fight, but after going in for the third party, then more duos showed up and I ended up being crunched in between two fights. After going through that match, I can say that Apex Legends definitely still has audio issues in the game. But after trying this method, I can say that the match didn't get any easier. I was still in pretty aggressive lobbies. It was funny though seeing the method where you put on all of your default skins actually somewhat work. I really hope that that is some sort of bug and the Apex Legends skill-based matchmaking system isn't using the skins that you're wearing to determine your next match. But with all that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and found it entertaining. Definitely consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. Subscribing doesn't come at any cost to you and you could always unsubscribe later. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day everyone, and I'll see you all around later. Bye guys.